It is midday in Tripoli. It's 1 p.m. in Nairobi. Hello, I'm Monita Rajpal. You're watching CNN, the world's news leader. This is World One, live from London. From opulent palaces decorated with gold to an anonymous grave in the desert. After days in cold storage, Muammar Gaddafi's body has been buried at a secret location in the open desert. A spokesman for Libya's National Transitional Council told CNN the funeral was held a few hours ago at dawn and that members of Gaddafi's tribe were allowed to pray over the body. On has left many wondering about the competence of Libya's new leaders. We want to find out how people there are feeling about all of this. Dan Rivers joins us now from Tripoli. And Dan, first of all, why is Muammar Gaddafi's resting place, his burial site, being kept a secret?
Well, I think simply because they don't want it to turn into a shrine, Monita. They want to draw a line under this, effectively to bury him out in the desert where no one can find his grave and move on.
Yeah, and there are lots of questions coming from outside of Libya in terms of the competency of the NTC and, of course, the transparency of the NTC and as they move forward in the days ahead. But what about within Libya in itself? I mean, is there even a sense of a real opposition to the NTC?
I don't think so at the moment. I think there are these sort of factional, different militia sort of patchwork across the country.
Right, Dan, thank you for that. Dan Rivers there in Tripoli. It's an enormous victory for the people. That's how one observer is describing Tunisia's groundbreaking multi-party election. Final results in the National Assembly vote are due late Tuesday, but as Ivan Watson reports from Tunis, the election is already being hailed as a model for other countries in the region.
Tunisia's top election commissioner had one word to describe the unexpectedly high turnout in Sunday's historic vote. Fabulous, he said.
Well, we want to see what newspapers are saying about all of this. In Abu Dhabi, the headline in the National is Tunisia's test of unity comes after the ballots are tallied. The opinion piece goes on to say the revolution that ousted Ben Ali was not a revolution of Islamist or liberal Tunisians. It was a revolution of Tunisians. That same vision of an inclusive society is what all sides must maintain. Gulf News from Dubai has the headline Tunisia blazes historic election trail. The analysis piece says let other nations who have followed the path taken by Tunisia watch and take heed. And in the coming months, let the leaders of the Arab Spring uprisings take note that building inclusive institutions requires time and thought. And finally, here in the UK, there is an opinion piece in The Independent with the headline, Tunisia and Libya, two faces of the Arab Spring. It goes on to say, as the first country of the Arab Spring to hold a successful election, Tunisia is a pioneer. What has happened so far is promising, but it is only a start. You are watching World One, live from London. Boosting the bailout fund for Germany's Angela Merkel, the priority is extra firepower to combat the euro debt crisis. Adding firepower to the rescue fund, details are emerging of the deal EU leaders hope to unveil Wednesday to ease the euro debt crisis. German Chancellor Angela Merkel wants to boost a bailout fund set up earlier this year to nearly $1.5 trillion. That's up from about $600 billion, but she's got to sell the plan to supporters at home. Debt politics are now taking center stage in European capitals, while Chancellor Merkel pleads with her politicians. Britain's Prime Minister is smarting up after a slap in the face from his. We'll have more on that in just a moment. But first, all this comes as financial markets wait to see just what EU leaders come up with when they meet in Brussels on Wednesday. Well, tomorrow will also be a big day in Berlin, where a crucial parliamentary vote is looming. We want to go live now to CNN's Fred Pleitgen, who's in the German capital. Fred, this is turning out to be a big deal for Angela Merkel when it comes to her, I guess, political legacy, but whether or not she's going to be able to stay on to fight for another day.
Well, it certainly has become very difficult for her politically. As you said, the German parliament tomorrow is set to vote on leveraging mechanisms to boost the EFSF, the Stability Fund.
Yeah, certainly a sentiment I'm sure is being shared by the rest of the members within the Eurozone as well. Fred Pleitgen there in Berlin, thank you so much. Well, Britain's Prime Minister heads into Wednesday's crisis meeting after suffering an embarrassment at home, the biggest internal rebellion of his 17-month-old government. About 80 members of his own party defied their leader and voted to stage a national referendum. referendum on whether to leave the EU. The motion was defeated, but showed a large part of the PM's party is angry with his stance on Europe. Kirsty Hughes from Oxford University Centre for International Studies joins us now. Kirsty, thank you very much for being with us. See, on the one hand, the government is there to represent the will of the people, but they're also there to help direct the people into what is best for national interests. So here we have a debate on what is best for national interests as opposed to, or balancing that with continent-wide interest, because it goes hand in hand. Yet, where does Britain stand at this point?
I think Britain stands in a very confused position, or at least Cameron does, because on the one hand, he insisted at the EU summit on Sunday.
Should Britain have a voice in the EU? If you're not going to put your money where your mouth is, you should just keep quiet, right?
Well, I think Britain shouldn't particularly have a say in the Euro debates, other than as an outsider like Canada or like the United States, though smaller. But it is part of the single market, and while it's in the single market, it will care about banking regulations, financial regulations.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. You're watching World One live from London. Hundreds of people are still missing in southeast Turkey 2 days after a massive earthquake. The government says more than 2,000 search and rescue workers are in the region looking for survivors. Among the devastation, there have been some remarkable successes. Diana Magne is in the province of Van. She joins us now live. And Danny, we understand that there is rescuing taking place right now behind you. Diana, thank you very much for that. Diana Magne reporting just there from the province of Van. Now, one of the hindrances to the rescue operation is the cold weather over the night. Of course, as the rescue operations go through over the night into the early hours of the morning, many rescuers, many survivors are finding some sort of safety outside, not going into their homes because they're just too afraid of perhaps other aftershocks or another earthquake. We want to get more on the weather situation now. Let's go to our meteorologist, Jennifer Delgado, at the World Weather Center. Jen, tell us a little bit about the weather situation there in Turkey.
Hi, Monita. We do know it has been cold at night, but the problem is temperatures are going to continue to decrease as we go through the next couple days. Parts of Atlanta, Georgia, Tennessee. Fabulous display. Look at that.
Absolutely gorgeous, Jen.
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
Like
Love
yourself.
It.
Back over to you.
Oh, and you too, Jen. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day. Appreciate that. You're watching World One live from London. Well, with European leaders talking about 13-figure sums. What does that mean to people paying the bills? European citizens who are worrying about taxes, redundancies, and their pension pots. Well, we want to ask Richard Asquith, tax specialist from accounting services company TMF Group. Richard, thank you very much for being with us. It's so confusing.
Yeah.
You know, when we hear about all of the things that are being discussed by the leaders, various summit after summit after summit, it is hard to explain to even them what to do. They can't seem to figure it out.
Completely.
How do you explain it to someone like me?
Yeah, no, it feels very surreal when we're faced with headlines about Greece going over a precipice or Europe on the brink of disaster. What does it mean to us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Starting to understand it. Starting to.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Bye-bye.
Kenya is on edge after 2 attacks in Nairobi, which killed at least 1 person and injured 20. The explosions happened at a crowded bus station and at a busy nightclub. There are concerns the attacks are the work of Al-Shabaab. Welcome back. The Texas Rangers are 1 win away from winning the World Series for the first time ever. Pedro Pinto is here with that and some of the other stories that are making headlines.
I am. And there's a lot of them. I will start with the baseball. The Rangers beat the St. Louis Cardinals on Monday night to take a T and state governments as well. That means that there'll be 2 Grand Prix in the United States in 2013.
Very exciting indeed.
Yeah.
Pedro, thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. You're watching World One live from London. You are watching World One live from London. We are approaching almost 7 a.m. in New York, almost 1 p.m. in Berlin, and it's almost 8 p.m. in Tokyo. 3 very important words were spoken Monday at the trial of Michael Jackson's doctor. The prosecution rests. Now, the defense will try to prove the superstar died from a self-administered drug overdose. Ted Rollins reports now from Los Angeles.
When court resumes, a nurse who treated Michael Jackson will be on the stand. Her name is Sherilyn Lee.
Let's bring you up to date on some of the other stories that we're talking about here on World One. WikiLeaks may have plenty of secret information, but its latest revelation is the fact that it's running out of cash. Founder Julian Assange says major financial companies are refusing to process money transfers to WikiLeaks. They started their boycott after it published thousands of confidential U.S. diplomatic cables last year. Assange says WikiLeaks plans a big fundraising campaign. Another campaign we want to talk to you about is fronted by this lady here, Green Fingers at the White House. The First Lady has always been keen on growing her own food, and now she's ready to share her tips. Michelle Obama's first book is called American Grown: How the White House Kitchen Garden Inspires Families, Schools, and Communities. Bit of a mouthful there. We hope at least it's full of some delicious recipes. And here, the new edition of InStyle magazine's November issue has not one, but two divas inside its pages. The first, of course, glamour singer and designer Gwen Stefani. Second, over here, no doubt you've heard of the second one, celebrity for 35 years, Miss Piggy. The Muppet is flaunting her famous curves in a fringed black number by Jason Wu while talking about her relationship with Kermit the Frog. For those hoping to hear news of Wedding Bell, sorry folks, we have to disappoint you. Miss Piggy says, Kermit and I are married in our hearts. I'm still working on the rest of him. Aw, so cute. Let's bring you up to date on a story we brought you yesterday. Britain's Queen Elizabeth may have seen more than she bargained for while on a royal visit to Australia. She praised the resilience and courage of Australians who suffered through disastrous flooding earlier this year in Brisbane. But at one point, she was mooned. Yep. A 22-year-old man has been cited for exposure and public nuisance for flashing his bare rear end at the Queen's motorcade. Here's his reaction to the charges.
I mooned the Queen. Get a sense of everybody's seen someone's butt.
You're watching World One live from London. I'm Monita, Rajpal. We thank you for joining us. We'll update you on the news headlines at the top of the hour, only here on CNN.